One of the many things that I love about Canada is the fact that I could be a practicing Muslim, born and raised in Saudi Arabia, to Pakistani parents, educated in the US and Canada, and still consider myself a proud Canadian. My complex background of diverse cultural experiences is exactly what being a Canadian means. I used to think of Canada as a melting pot, a mixture and blend of diverse cultures, beliefs, religions, and ethnicities, until I realized that referring to it as a melting pot was a great injustice to the country. What makes Canada remarkable is not all of the cultures blending together, but rather the celebration and recognition of the differences in cultures, ethnicities, and religions pieced together perfectly, similar to an abstract painting. The uniqueness of this country lies in the uniqueness that each one of us brings with us. It is what makes this country truly special, and it's what makes me consider myself a proud Canadian. Because of this, I no longer refer to Canada as a melting pot, but rather a colorful and perfectly illustrated abstract painting. With that being said, it's our pleasure, privilege, and great honor to have the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, the Honourable Ahmed Hussen, our chief guest with us this evening. He is a lawyer and social activist and has proven a track record of leadership and community empowerment. Born and raised in Somalia, Ahmed immigrated to Canada and co-founded the Regent Park Community Council, where he secured a $500 million revitalization project for the area. He also served as a national president of the Canadian Somali Congress, a community organization. His results-driven reputation led to an invitation to join the task force for modernizing income security for adults in the Toronto City Summit Alliance. He's fluent in English, Somali, Swahili, and earned his Bachelor's of Arts degree and his law degree. In 2004, the Toronto Star recognized him as one of 10 individuals in Canada to have made substantial contributions to his community. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Honourable Ahmed Hussen, Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, and Member of Parliament.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. It's an honor to join all of you here today at the Canada chapter of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan in your fourth biannual Gala Dinner. I wanted to speak very briefly about the Canadian immigration system and our plans for that system, how we can make immigration work for Canadians and for foreign nationals by making it more nimble, by making sure that our immigration system continues to work for our economy, but also make sure that our immigration system is client-centered, that we place the client at the heart of everything that we do, and that we have space in our immigration system, and we continue to show leadership in the world to provide safety and sanctuary for those who are fleeing persecution. So those are the three things that I wanted to touch on. And then talk a little bit about how some of those reforms that we've put in place immediately and shortly, how they've had an impact shortly after we've embarked on them. And those challenges were very difficult because, to be honest, we inherited a broken immigration system, an immigration system that was neglected and underfunded for the last 9 years. And so when we came into office, we were facing two challenges. One was huge amounts of backlogs in all the streams of immigration. I'll give you an example. Parents and grandparents, the backlog there was 167,000 people. For spouses, Canadian permanent residents and citizens who wanted to sponsor their spouses, there was a backlog of 75,000 people, and so on and so on and so forth. In addition to that, they were experiencing very long wait times for those applications and those streams. Citizenship, something that a lot of people in this room are familiar with, was taking too long. It was taking 24 months to process those applications. And finally, the immigration system was not really working well to address the real calls, the urgent calls from our business community, our employers, our tech sector, our academics, who were asking the federal government. They were saying, can you help us get talent faster into Canada? It's taking too long, there's a lot of red tape, and they weren't being listened to. And there was no national conversation with provinces, with the municipalities, on not just the number of immigrants that should land in Canada every year, but the right mix that would work for them. And they were asking something for 20 years, which is, Government of Canada, could you let us, immigration is too important to have one-year plans. Could you have multi-year plans? So on all those things, we were able to listen. And a lot of the ideas that we've been able to implement actually came from Canadians themselves. When you listen to Canadians and you engage them from coast to coast to coast, you learn a thing or two about what's really important on the ground. And I've learned a lot from them, and we've been able to implement those reforms. So the spousal program, for example, we were able to do something that is very difficult to do. It's very difficult in immigration processing to reduce the wait times and the backlogs at the same time. You have to kind of pick one. So if you want to do both, it's actually a lot of work, and we were able to do that. Now, that backlog in the spousal system has gone from 75,000 people to 15,000. In the parents and grandparents, it's been reduced from 167,000 people to a little bit over 20,000. We hope all these backlogs will be eliminated to zero by the time the next year rolls around. Processing, the wait times have also come down from wait time. If you wanted to sponsor your spouse in Canada, it was taking almost 3 years or more. Now it takes 12 months or less. And that is because we were able to put a lot of resources into that. Let me go back to the economic immigration. So a lot of employers were saying, especially the tech sector, academia, they were saying, look, it's taking too long. It was taking 7 months to bring a highly skilled person to come and do some leadership training or turnaround work in these sectors. And so we were able, with their assistance and with that idea that came from the business community, to introduce the global skills strategy. So there is a real fight around the world now for talent. And that fight is trying to get that highly mobile talent to choose Canada. And highly skilled people have options. They don't have to come to Canada. So you have to make sure that you are putting in place programming that facilitates their entry into this country. And so in this global fight for talent, when countries are engaged in a gunfight, Canada has brought a tank. And that tank is called the Global Skills Strategy, which has reduced the facilitation of talent into Canada from 7 months to 2 weeks. Now that in government is revolutionary, to be able to do that. And since we've introduced that strategy in June of last year, 10,000 highly skilled individuals have been able to come to Canada. And as part of that strategy, if you're a researcher who's coming to Canada to collaborate with our researchers at a university or an institute, you don't have to get a work permit anymore. You can come in and collaborate for 4 months out of the year, and you don't need a work permit. The same goes for people who are coming, consultants who are coming for short-term work or intercompany transferees and so on. The piece around the provincial nominee program, we've increased it. We want to make sure that the benefits of immigration are felt right across the country, not just in the main cities. We introduced the Atlantic Immigration Program that makes sure that in Atlantic Canada, you want to see if we stop being ambitious in immigration. If you'd like to see what Canada will suffer from, go to Atlantic Canada. You'll see much higher rates of demographic challenges there. You'll see a real challenge of employers not finding people to fill their unfilled jobs. And so in the Atlantic Pilot Program, we're testing out not only a way to attract skilled immigrants there, but to attract their families and keep them there by making sure that there's support systems there. And we responded to Canadians' calls for multi-year plans. So last year, we introduced the first ever multi-year immigration plan in 20 years. So that plan is a 3-year plan. It envisions 310,000 landings this year. Next year, it envisions 330,000, and the year after that, 340,000. 60% of these people will be in the economic category, 20% family class, and the remainder refugees and protected persons. Now, that means that in 3 years, Canada will welcome almost 1 million people. That does not include international students and tourists. I'm talking about permanent residents, people who will be coming to fill unfilled jobs. We are already almost at full employment in Canada. And in certain regions, the lack of workers is acute. I've gone to companies who are turning away contracts, ladies and gentlemen. They're turning away $4 million, $6 million contracts, not because they don't want those contracts, but because they don't have the workers to fulfill the contract. I've gone to other companies who have had to pull their scientists from the research labs into the factory floor because they can't find enough workers. So this is a serious, serious challenge, and it's an urgent challenge that we have to respond to. So every time you hear someone opposing immigration levels in Canada, tell them that we need immigrants. We need immigrants, our economy needs immigrants. And it's not just in the big cities. I've traveled across this country. You have, Sudbury needs 20,000 people today. Sault Ste. Marie needs 12,000 people today. I went to the Yukon. They have 2% unemployment. Red hot economy. I passed by a $150 million long-term care facility with 150 beds, which means each bed cost $1 million. You know why it can't open? There's no nurses. There's no personal support workers. So they need immigration. They were pleading with me to allow them to bring more people to the Yukon. We have a huge push for international students. I'm the first immigration minister in Canadian history who goes abroad and who tells people, come to Canada and study, but also we would like for you to stay. We would like for you to stay. Why? Because these are young people who have studied in Canada. They speak English or French, and they've gone to our schools. Why would we not want to hang on to these people? So we're giving them postgraduate work permits of 3 years, which incidentally allows them to become permanent residents. Let me come back to the issue of Pakistan. Pakistan, just like other regions in the world that had suffered long wait times and long backlogs for many years, I made it a priority to make sure that as we tackled the wait times and the backlogs and the client service, the client service is not just about fixing the wait times and the backlogs. It's also about making sure that when you interact with the immigration system, that you don't walk away frustrated. Some of those forms need PhDs to fill them. Some of the answers to the questions could go either way. You're like, did I really answer that question right or not? And you can ask 10 different people and you'll have different answers. So we've simplified the process. We are hoping with our investments that the 1-800 number, when you call that number, that you get the answers that you're seeking. We've made sure that we're testing out new ideas. We want to be able, we haven't gone there yet, but we're building the system because you have to build the plumbing as well, right? It doesn't work on the front end if you don't do the back end. So we want to make sure that we get to the point where you'll be able to track your immigration case the way you can track your package on Amazon. That's where we want to go. And we're making the investments to be able to do that. And the proof is in the pudding. We finally have a director general and a unit in the immigration system called client service. It didn't exist. We never, so now the client is at the heart of everything that we do. So we brought that same focus to Pakistan. Now, Pakistani nationals are being processed through our Abu Dhabi office with respect to the visas, and the spousal sponsorships are being processed through London, United Kingdom. And I've visited both visa offices to make sure that we improve the processing and that Pakistani nationals are treated fairly and that there's consistency in that decision making. In terms of the spousal, I believe we're there. And we were able to put together a triage system whereby Pakistani nationals who have obvious cases of spousal sponsorships that are on the surface look very genuine are triaged, and they're not mixed with the few, because most people have genuine applications and they have bona fide marriages. But there's of course a few who are complex cases. But in the past, everything was jumbled together, and it would slow down everyone. That wouldn't be fair for the bona fide people who are the vast majority. So we've instituted a system where those folks are in a different queue and they're triaged away, and then we are remaining with a very small number of complex cases where There's issues around forced marriage or things like that. And I can tell you that now Pakistani foreign nationals who are sponsored by their spouse receive the same treatment and the same processing time, the same wait times as everyone else. And I can, you can go into the community, I've checked, it is 12 months or less in the vast majority of cases, and the reforms are making a difference. I've visited London a number of times, and I've gone and I've actually opened cases and I've seen the system. It's working. When it comes to the visas, we're not there yet, but we've implemented a Pakistan action plan to get to the point where some of those issues will be dealt with. But more importantly, it's not just an issue of fixing the problems, but it's also being ambitious. And just like we're ambitious as a country in terms of the immigration levels, we need to be ambitious to the opportunities. So one of the opportunities is targeting the high quality feeder schools from Pakistan for those students to consider coming to study in Canada. And the way we do that is to encourage our visa officers and others to do more outreach and to engage the Pakistani government to also consider Canada in their scholarship programs and their outreach programs. So that is happening, and I'm hopeful that in the next few years that Pakistan will be one of the countries that provides a large number of international students to Canada. Because we need that. We need that diversity. We need that diversity of perspective. We need that talent. Because those are people who, if they decide to stay in Canada, will make great citizens and add so much to our economy and our culture and our society. If they decide to go back, they'll be the best ambassadors for Canada because they'll carry the memory of studying in Canada back to Pakistan. Unfortunately, I can't stay with you tonight because I have a number of other events, but I wanted to really make it here because the Pakistani Canadian community is very important to me. And it's a very large community, it's very highly skilled, very engaged, and I thought that it was important for me to come and show you not only what we're aiming in general for the immigration system, but how that impacts Pakistani Canadians and also Pakistani foreign nationals. I want to leave you with one thought. For the last 10 years, the speaker before me talked about the long history of collaboration between Canada and Pakistan. That's true. If you look at CEDA, if you look at our international development programs, if you look at the engagements that we've had with both countries, there's a very long and deep and historical relationship. But for some reason, a decade ago, everything stagnated and the relationship, it didn't go sour, but people stopped paying attention to it on both sides. On both sides. And now I think with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his genuine goal of bringing Canada back to the international community, making sure that we re-engage with emerging markets, with smaller countries, with larger countries, with strategic partners like Pakistan, there is a window of opportunity. But then, if you look at the other side, you now have a new leader in Pakistan, not from the traditional parties, who's saying that he's fighting corruption, that he wants to invest in poverty reduction, that he wants to attract investment, that he wants to re-engage with Pakistan's traditional partners. So you have a window on both sides, and I think it is incumbent on groups like this and others to bring the countries closer. Of course, the governments can do some of that, but it's not enough. Business groups and others have to build these people-to-people ties. But I can assure you that Canada is back. We are re-engaged with Pakistan. We're very, very encouraged by the comments made by the new Prime Minister of Pakistan, the Right Honourable Imran Khan. His inauguration speech was really, really inspiring. And so I think there's a window of opportunity, and I can speak for the government of Canada when I say that Pakistan is an important country. It's a strategic country. It is a country that is full of potential. It is a country that is almost turning the corner to become a truly emerging market, a country that we could collaborate with on so many levels, not only in infrastructure, but in talent. The talent in Pakistan could really help Canada innovate and continue to invest in things like robotics and artificial intelligence. So I'm very honored to join you here today to say that my job is to make sure that the immigration system works for Canadians, but also works to help Canadian employers and businesses attract talent here. And we're going for a win-win-win. It's not a brain drain. We want programs like the Global Skills Strategy are meant to benefit both countries. So when talent comes from Pakistan to Canada, collaborates with our innovative ecosystem, and then goes back to Pakistan, both countries benefit. So that's what I'll leave you with. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.